the end of the year, I pause and reflect on a lot of things, and it seems to me that the word God and dog are the same word with rearranged letters for a reason. This Lessons Learned with year-end reflective possibilities is filled with all of the lessons, specifically 12 of them, that I've learned by the last 4 years that Biskit has been in my life. Or hashtag Lessons Learned, or hashtag Lessons Learned from Biskit. And I'd like to share some of them with you. The first is, have a happy attitude. Biskit never mopes around the house. Whether we're out or we're inside, he always chooses, because it's his nature or because it's a choice, happiness. And I find how wonderful that is to have a disposition whose propensity is towards happiness as opposed to any of the other things that I may choose on a given day. Greet everyone with enthusiasm. With only 2 exceptions in the past 4 years, has Biskit ever been confronted with someone walking this way or coming close to Biskit? Has Biskit ever wanted to actually back up? Only 2 times, from smell or demeanor or understanding. Biskit greets everyone with the same love and approval and gives everyone the same chance. He doesn't know resume, he doesn't know clothing labels, he knows smell, he knows attitudes, he knows his general feeling, but everyone that comes in front of him gets the same chance. I have never been so wonderfully accommodating because of so many reasons, maybe bullying or suffering or people who are out to give you things or out to get things. We always, I think, have a little judgmental lens through which we see our world, and that lens may change based on where we are. But Biskit greets everyone with the same amount of enthusiasm, which is pretty wonderful. Delight in the simple. Biskit never asks for something more complicated. He never asks how many courses his meal will have. He never asks how we're going to do something after a meal or how we're going to spend the next day. He is the happiest when we are the most simple, not the most complicated day and not the most complicated plan, for example. Forgive almost immediately. He might not forget smells, and he might not forget that if he gets too close to a certain window, or if he gets too close to a certain cliff, or too close to a certain corner of a certain beach, he might remember what's happened there, but he forgives almost immediately. He's never held a grudge for being scolded, or for doing something wrong, or for learning a particularly difficult or painful lesson. Explore and sniff everything. I have learned to trust more a sense of instinct and smell than I ever have before Biskit came into my life, and explore everything in the sense that nothing is off limits. Just because something is new, the older we get, I think we find our own system and our own rut and our own cycle of what works for us, but we actually have to look through the eyes of a dog, or backwards, God, and see everything with the promise of possibility. Be supportive. Biskit definitely supports me through long haul flights, difficult check-ins, lots of presentation experiences where everyone's laughing, definitely presentation experiences where people are sitting there with their arms crossed in front of them until he'll stick his head up at the right time, of course. Every student says, "Aw," and all of a sudden the energy in our room will change. He's so supportive of me because he knows in our job of fitness presenting and public speaking, we're out there and it's the Lawrence show or it's the you show if you're the one doing that. He's definitely having my back more than anyone I've ever known from the 4-legged variety of support. And that's a wonderful thing because I don't actually feel alone since Biskit's in my life. Take plenty of rests. Unlike the Western mentality of wake up, go through a day, and go to bed. He's very Eastern or Eastern European, very Italian, very French, very Greek in the sense that naps are great and naps can start as early as 30 minutes after waking up. And the more he will keep his energy consistent during the day, that's pretty cool. Naps don't have to be a definite time. They don't have to be very long. In fact, shorter naps are great. And be able to spring into power anaerobically after a nap and go and get them. And I've learned that Biskit has 2 speeds, fast and off. Very rarely is Biskit on just low bat, or low battery, as my Filipino friends would say, low bat. Another lesson from Biskit is loyalty is a virtue. You're not just born with this. It's a virtue that is a trait that we can acquire and we can have next to our name, and it can be in our wheelhouse or it cannot be in our wheelhouse, but that's a choice. What are your virtues, and is loyalty to your family of choice, i.e. best friends, one of those? Play is good. Never does Biskit wake up and say, we have to work extra hard today. And never does Biskit go to bed at the end of the day with an attitude of, we should have worked harder. But if I could have asked him, could we have played more and spent more time in the pool or ran a little bit longer at the beach? Absolutely, he was never going to be the one to say, our playtime is done. Play is a good thing, and play keeps us young at heart at all ages. Biskit is definitely my NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, activity tracker. Because I know, left to my own druthers, I would sit and rather drink or have hot chocolate or meditate, drink water and hydrate, of course, or play on social media. But no, I know that Biskit needs some activity, and that activity is great for me. Set your limits. If you touch Biskit in an inappropriate way, or rub him in the wrong place, or push a little too much pressure, or put a little bit too much in the wrong way, or at the wrong time, he will let you know. Not in a bad way. He never nips, he never tucks. I think that's reserved to another animal species called cats. But Biskit definitely knows his limits. And he sets his limits because he knows when enough is enough, and without imposing his judgments and without imposing his needs, he has his limits set. And I've learned a lot about setting my boundaries and taking care of myself. As I quote often from China, we cannot serve others if our teapot is empty. You can't serve from an empty teapot. So take care of yourself first, and that comes from healthy boundaries. Accept treats. You know, this sounds so simple. Oh, Biskit will always accept treats, not from other people in terms of edible, but definitely in terms of ear rubs or belly rubs or back rubs. That's a treat, right? I've always had a huge issue accepting treats because I've always felt like I'd rather give than receive. And I learned from Mom it's very hard to receive. And I learned from Mom the receiver can sometimes be more gracious than the giver. Then I learned from Mary how actually to go about expressing gratitude. And then I learned about it's okay to accept. And just because you accept doesn't mean you have to repay twofold or threefold, which always sort of was my fear. I don't want to owe anyone a kindness. But you know what? As Yuri taught me, love is one of the few things that has no limits. So why worry if this comes to you or this goes to her or this is expressed in this way to this person? Because it can come back to you in another way, in an unlimited way. So that helped me understand that limitless, when love is true, is the definition of love. Then, in addition to having my own boundaries and accepting treats from others, protect those you love. Biskit actually is not a guard dog. He is many types of approved and credentialed and certified dog, but he's not a guard dog. He will not bite your hand if you come to attack me. But protect those you love. There are a lot of definitions of protection, right? One of them is through attitude, through nose, through displaying of emotion, and just letting it be very public. Where his mottos lie, where his fidelity lies, where his trust lies, and where his ultimate faith lies. And that's important to know. Protect those you love, and there are lots of ways to explain protection. He shows passion with gusto. He's not quiet. If he really is happy at the beach, you don't ever have to say, I'm wondering, with his eyes and his frolicking nature and his happy, free-spirited, circular running, is he possibly happy today? There are no doubts, but I've met lots of people when you have the outside and then you have the inside, and through lessons learned, we've learned huge discrepancy between the outside and their inside, right? Not with Biskit. He shows passion with gusto and you never have to know what he's thinking. From Biskit, I've learned be yourself. You can't be anyone else. Biskit could never adapt the personality of a Chihuahua or a Doberman. No need to try. He's himself, and he's happy knowing that some people will not gravitate towards him. He doesn't try to win their love. He's like, be that as it may. Some people are not Italian Greyhound people. Some people are not even dog people. Some people are not dog but are animal lovers, and some people aren't animal lovers at all. Trust your first instinct. Biskit has never been wrong with smell or the initial contact of a person. Yet how many times do we meet someone who talks the talk or has the Facebook walk and we actually learn, we're gonna learn that the outside and the inside, or the truth and the reality, are not always the same, are they? Even if you get a finger in front of your camera. You wanna be an attention whore in the nicest possible way sometimes. Why? Some people can't just film. They gotta get their finger in front of the camera if it's not their whole body. That's okay, but I'll tell you this. In our own jobs, at least in fitness profession or yoga or in public speaking, no one says I'm super successful by having learned to blend in. So as Biskit is an attention whore, when he'll stick his nose up in the nicest possible way, with not noise making, with not barking, but just by looking around, waiting for the first pair of eyes that comes close to him, or hands down his back or his ears, he's always, as the British say, at the ready for attention. And in our jobs, I think we always have to be, even if we're in our pajamas on a Sunday morning going to get milk at the grocery store, soy, almond, coconut, blend, surprise, whatever your dairy is these days, you always have to be ready. And I call that be an attention whore. Always ready, because you know when you're not ready is when it's really going to count. And finally, love unconditionally. I learned that from Biskit. I can't do that myself. I judge. If you're an addict, if you are completely coming at me and you are inebriated, if you're slurring your words, if you smell, if you want to touch me too much in inappropriate ways in public, from the beginning, right? Like at a bar or a cafe shop or after a session and you're coming up at a book signing. It's really hard for me sometimes to be able to say, I have Biskit's ability to greet everybody with the same potential of unconditional love. I've actually spent 50 plus years learning how to judge and filter and change different kind of lenses. So I have to learn how always to refocus my lens through Biskit's lens and love unconditionally. Because at the end of the day, love is what we have that has no limits, so loving unconditionally is pretty cool. I like to say that I've learned to say I love unconditionally, practice loving unconditionally, but with respectful requirements. I require this and this and this if you're going to be in my inner circle, for example. So with love in my heart and a firm commitment to spread wellness without walls, I'm Lawrence, expressing my gratitude to you for allowing me to share my lessons learned thus far. And I conclude all of these lessons I've learned from Biskit, from 4 years of having an extremely close, inseparable, unconditional source of love, Biskit. Where in your life can you relate to some of these lessons learned from the innocence of a 4-legged Italian Greyhound?